Welcome to Big Deal. I'm Nisha Poddar. Now, today on the show, we'll focus on the diagnostics sector, which has seen an eventful last few years with many disruptions. But now, has it reached a juncture when it's lost its mojo? Or are we really going to see a reincarnation of the sector where deal making will also play a pivotal role? That's the question that we are asking. Let's find out from our expert panel today. Joining us on CNBC-TV18 are Anmol Ganjoo, the founder and managing partner at Shanika Capital Advisors, and Sanjeev Vashishta, who's the MD and CEO of Pathkind Diagnostics. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, Anmol, you had predicted long back that the good bull run that we had seen in the valuation of diagnostics companies listed on the exchanges will see a drop in valuation. And we have seen exactly that. What is your view on the sector and the valuations going from here on?
Hi, thanks for having me, Nisha. Yes, we did highlight a few risks earlier, which were there and which made for a perfect cocktail where valuations won't sustain. 6 months is a long time. A lot of the bad news is in the price.
Yeah.
However, whether we are about to see a gradual tick up in the operating parameters, I think there's still some time left. But obviously, a lot of froth, a lot of excesses, a lot of mistakes which investors typically make at the peak of bull cycle, they are clearly behind us. As investors and as industry participants, you have to be watchful now for opportunities more than risks, which is completely inverse to what the situation was 6-7 months back when we made the call that things are looking fairly shaky from a valuation standpoint.
So from here on, in short, you are seeing the valuation stabilize?
Not as bearish as we were 6 months back.
All right. So that's an important comment. So Sanjeev, you from the industry, and yes, you've been a veteran, you've headed SRL, and now you have a company which you have founded yourself. So what do you think are going to be the growth drivers and some of the big disruptions in the sector which makes you bullish about this space?
So Nisha, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. So I think just a small caveat here. I somehow don't like the word disruption, and I would rather use the word augmentation. But I think coming straight to the point, see, if you look at multiple parameters, whether we talk about the accession to test ratio, how many from one sample, how many tests are being conducted, or for that matter, how many people have actually given their blood for testing, or how many people are actually paying the money out of their own pocket for the healthcare requirements or even diagnostics. So all these things go in favor of the market really taking a good shape going forward. Whatever we have seen over the last few years and decades, actually, the industry has been growing fantastically. Just before COVID, the market went a little sluggish for multiple reasons. While the growth on the volume front was good, but we saw that on the revenue side it was low. But if you ask me, really, clearly the fact that government has got tremendous focus on healthcare now, the spend of the government, which is today 1.3%, close to about 1.3% of the GDP, is bound to go up to about 2.5% in the near foreseeable future. And as I was alluding to, accession to test ratio, which means from one sample in our country, we carry out just a little under 2 tests. And
right,
if you compare this with the advanced economies like the US, where this number is 15. So from one sample, we conduct at an average 15 tests. NHS in England, we do about 24 tests. Emerging economies like Brazil, we do about 10 tests from one sample. So it's just a matter of pulling the right levers. And if you are able to really convince the people about the importance of diagnostics, a stitch in time saves 9, why it is important to do the diagnostics from time to time.
Right.
It'll save a lot of money to the exchequer also.
Yeah.
So all this goes in favor of the growth. And of course, the macroeconomic parameters also quite favorable.
Right. So, Sanjeev, I'll ask you then on to this point. You're sounding very bullish, but many big players have entered this particular space. And do you foresee that there will be some cannibalization and consolidation, to put a better word for cannibalization?
So Nisha, I think there's too much of hyperbole which is created around consolidation. Look at the last 12 years data. Now, there are typically three segments under which the investments are coming in the diagnostic sector. One is the diagnostics chains, whether these are the organized chains, which is whether they are in the at the national level or the regional level. In FY11, the share of diagnostics chains was about 12% in the overall business. This has moved up to, over the last 11 years, it's moved up to about 16% now. Hospitals, which had diagnostic share of 35%, it has moved up to 37%, 2% gain. The standalone labs, which were about 53% 11 years back, are now 47%. So during the last decade plus time, we have only seen movement of 6% from this segment. And this is the most potent segment from where the consolidation can happen.
Right.
Given the fact that we have 125,000 labs in the country, and these are largely, the large section of this is more pop and mom shop. Is it really consolidable is the question we should be asking.
Right.
So organized sector being 16%, unorganized being the largest, the substantial part.
Yeah.
So you have to have a wieldy asset to be picked by somebody, who can make some sense out of it.
Right. So Anmol, we have seen some bit of consolidation. The two listed entities have both bought other smaller entities to really increase their reach. So some consolidation has happened. But to my larger question, Tatas have entered this space, Adani has entered this space, Reliance has entered, and even Torrent Pharma and Lupin. So there are many new entrants with many related kind of sectors. Do you think consolidation could be the theme going forward? And is it consolidatable? That is a question from Sanjeev.
Yeah, so to answer this question, we probably need to take a step back and see how the market structure has evolved. If you look at the top line growth for diagnostic sector in India, it has been around 11%, give or take a few percentage points. COVID has been a big accelerator of all the themes that Sanjeev alluded to. As I said earlier in one of your probably shows that, the diagnostic industry moved forward by at least 5-6 years in that 1 year, because a lot of critical drivers like home testing, going to established trusted players and not going to a local vendor, which kind of accelerated this whole theme from mom and pop to established sources. That happened. But we have to bear in mind, and I think Sanjeev also made that point, that there's a lot of hyperbole going around. All these buzzwords, disruption, home testing, etc., it is not something that has not happened before. Diagnostics is a very established industry globally, and the script that we are following in India is very identical to what has happened in the West when they were at this point of time in their journey. So, for example, if you look at some of the large players globally, like LabCorp, $21 billion, or Quest, they have also grown as a consequence of acquisitions. Now, it is going to be a combination of multiple moves. You're going to have inorganic moves that is largely geographically contiguous.
Yes.
But when players want to have a pan-national kind of an identity, they will have to go and pick up players. So, for example, if you look at Lal, they're now 24% West. That happened only courtesy Suburban.
Yes.
So similarly, if you look at Metropolis, they are around 28% South. That happened courtesy a string of acquisitions like High Tech in the South.
Yes.
So it will have to be a hybrid strategy. There is no one size fits all in this. And the fact is that we have to bear in mind that the industry requires very little capital to start.
Yes.
So there is a perception, and only time will tell whether what's the right answer to this. There's a perception that we can also go and try our hand, right? So there are very low barriers to entry given the low capital requirements, but as experience has shown that there are huge barriers to scale.
Okay, that's a very interesting point.
So there are low barriers to entry, but huge barriers to scale. And we have not seen players as fast or be as successful in creating massive scale, which then leads to operating leverage kicking in and a lot of other advantages kicking in as the street valuations were multiplying and as the excitement around 6-7 months were applying.
Right.
So this is, a pause, and I'm sure that industry players like Vashishta, Sandeep will we'll recalibrate and look at whatever the learnings have been in the last 6-7 months.
Right. So, Sanjeev, to that point, scalability. Yes, Sanjeev, scalability. Is that no entry barrier, but scalability, and that will come only with experience and with deep-pocketed players? What do you have to say?
Oh, absolutely right. See, that is the usual thought process, but our country is a little different. See, if I tell you that top 20 players in the country only have about 11% of the market share. Now, even if you consolidate everybody and create just one mammoth company, that mammoth company would not be even 11% of the total market. So, I mean, the whole thing is, howsoever deep pocket one may have, but the industry, can industry really support that? So my point is that what we have to see is that whether we are capable of creating multiple pies or trying to pounce on the same pie. I think we have to increase the market share. There is a dearth of quality supply of diagnostic services, whatever people may say. So imagine in a country with 125,000 labs, only 13,000 qualified MD pathologists, MD biochemists, and microbiologists. So is anybody thinking about the quality? Out of so many labs, only 1%, 1.5% are accredited labs. So all I'm saying is, if you have to give the quality, then consolidation may help to only, but up to a certain extent. You have to do a lot organically. You have to go deep down to the tier 2, tier 3 towns where you create nice labs which can really give the requisite services to the people.
Right, Sanjeev, well made that particular point, and that's where expertise of the already existing players probably comes in. So consolidation was one theme that we spoke about, but this particular space has seen a lot of disruptive new ideas in the shape of omni-channel approach as well. We'll slip into a short breather on Big Deal, but we'll come back and discuss more M&A and deal play in the space which have taken place and what is the trend going forward. Stay tuned to Big Deal.